all day, so it's probably just better to go over and done with. So we're gonna start this in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Wow, the animation is actually pretty stepped up.
Who are you? Who do you serve?
All I have ever known in my life. Our land. Our customs. My family. Burns in the name of unification.
That's cool.
You are still a frog in a well, who knows nothing of the sea. The ocean's filled with new ships, but they all come from the same river. Greed. Power. Vengeance.
Wow. Okay.
And you? Will you continue down that river?
A black samurai,
Or
of course.
choose another path beyond what we see?
A female ninja.
And we must look for it. Together.
Okay. Huh?
We must learn to trust. Rebuild.
And follow the blade.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure how I feel. I'm not sure how I feel about the soundtrack yet. So we're going back to dual protagonists. He opted to not use his blade.
I said, who do you serve? We are the shadows.
That serve the light.
Okay, that's a cool gimmick. That's a cool gimmick for the hidden blade. That's a cool gimmick for the hidden blade. I'll be honest with you. Right. So, initial thoughts. So these two were initially enemies? Is that my understanding of this? They initially be enemies, and then it turns out that they ended up having to work together to figure out what's happening here. I'm trying to figure. I didn't see any of the assassins, or even the Templars logo. Because usually you see that somewhere. Like right now, this is like super subtle. Of course, they've got the red sash. That's always the two things. They have the red sash, the hood, and the hidden blade. Those are the three things that normally identify the assassins. But because it's a video game, I'm trying to figure out: do they have an assassin's the assassin's logo somewhere? Well, that's the sash. Is there like an assassin's logo somewhere on there? No, they don't. No, there's no assassin's thing.
I said, who do you serve?
So I feel like everything that we've seen so far is how they got to this point where initially they were enemies. That's the main point of the story. It turns out that they have something in common and then they end up having to take out people together. I don't know if dual protagonists is something that I want to see again.
We are the shadows.
Trying to see if there's a assassin's logo.
That served the light.
And this doesn't seem as like, what's the word I'm looking for? Yasuke and Naoe. Okay. I'm going on to the second part. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
With our dual protagonists, we have two fantasy, the samurai and the shinobi. We want the player to experience both, and we cannot squeeze both fantasy into one character because samurai and shinobi came from a different social class. They have different lives, so we cannot really mix them together.
The historical character of Yasuke presented a really exciting opportunity for the narrative team. We approached it in the same way that so much of the work is done in Assassin's Creed, which is really in terms of research and history first. Not a lot is known about him, but what we did know, or we do know, is that he arrived in Japan in 1579, right when our game starts.
Oh, this is quite old then.
He had relationships with some of the most interesting people in our setting, like Oda Nobunaga, the Portuguese, and Jesuits, which made it very sort of tantalizing and enticing from a narrative perspective to come in and start weaving these facts with story in between.
The more we read about the character, the more he was inspiring for us. He's a foreigner discovering Japan, and we thought it's the perfect fit because he's discovering Japan and you are discovering Japan also.
In the 1500s.
And on the flip side, we have Naoe, who comes from the province of Iga, which is a remote mountainous area, fiercely independent, known as the birthplace of shinobi. So they're very contrasting perspectives that really expose a lot of different sides and facets of the era.
When Oda came, he completely destroyed Iga. You have Yasuke and Oda that coming to destroy the shinobi. So it can kind of create this interesting tension between two characters.
Oh, so time must have passed.
We were able to connect her to the province of Iga and the legendary Igan shinobi historical figure, Fujibayashi Nagato, who's her father in the game. So we understand why she has the skills that she has and the values that she learns from her father in the people of Iga, which are valor, benevolence, and wisdom. And as a young person still at the start of the game, we get to see now we acquire even more of that wisdom as the story unfolds.
And if you ask anybody, it's super clear that samurai will be combat heavy and a shinobi will be stealth heavy. It creates this distinction right away. Yasuke can fight with all his advantage, his stature, like he's a big guy, he can break door, he can fight multiple enemies, he can break armor. Compared to Naoe, like her character and their outfit, it's really about being stealth, being unseen. She's the only one with the hidden blade, so they have clear advantage that put them into the stealth and the combat.
So
even if they can do a bit of both.
They're a really great pair together because on one side we have Naoe, who's very intense and passionate and determined woman who is very set on her goals. She's kind of got her heart on her sleeve and she'll say what she feels in the heat of the moment. And this intensity that she brings as a shinobi, but that she also brings to her relationship. And this balances very well with Yasuke, who is sort of a thoughtful, level head to Naoe's fiery passion. We really thought about somebody like Yasuke historically who was able to come to Japan and have the life that he did there, to enter service for Oda Nobunaga and achieve all of the things that he did. Like, what kind of person would go through all of this? So our Yasuke is very intelligent, thoughtful, and respectful of this culture that he encounters, and that makes him a very nice sort of counterpart to Naoe. He's a bit mysterious as well, and that's something we get to see unfold as the game progresses.
I wonder if we have to fight Yasuke at some point. I feel like we would have to fight Yasuke at the end. So it's nice. I'm really liking that aspect of this story that we have for both of them. Oh, is there a third video? Hang on, let me check. Oh, I think there's a few videos. Okay, let's watch the other ones. Official. That one. Okay. There's a 13-minute video.
This is Akeem Milne, the Assistant Director of Cinematic Design on Assassin's Creed Shadows.
And I'm Jonathan Dumont, Creative Director of Assassin's Creed Shadows. And today we're going to take a look at our reveal trailer of Assassin's Creed Shadows.
From the beginning, we really wanted to try to create this atmosphere of danger. So we're getting glimpses of our shinobi protagonist, Naoe.
See, I like the idea behind it, but I'm just trying to figure out how this is going to affect the main and other plots of the games.
A real homage to old ninja films where we just get like little.
I'm hoping that.
Not really sure
Does this mean that we're going to get back to yearly Assassin's Creed games again?
Here, cloaked in shadows.
Naoe is from Iga. She is a farmer warrior, daughter of Fujibayashi Nagato. She is a capable person.
I like this. This is a good way of understanding how the characters are gonna play off of each other, especially when you visit the first time they're explaining anything. So that means any future trailers will explain more plot points.
What we're looking at is the province of Iga, the homeland of Naoe. It's isolated a little bit in the mountains, and they were home of the shinobi. They come from here, or at least a portion of them come from here. And the interesting thing is, once we traveled to Japan and we visited this province, it came very clear how that world came together. Like, so it's sort of isolated in the mountains, sort of kept to itself. It's a very good representation, in my opinion, of that place.
Our land. Our customs. My family. Burns in the name of unification.
She was against unification, so the whole.
So what we're
which
seeing
is very
here
common.
are the troops of Oda.
Oh, I'd say very common at the
In
time, but there was always that
1579,
story.
There was the first attack from Oda Nobunaga's clan, and then in 1581 there was a second attack, a much more violent one, where Iga got crushed. And what we're seeing here is the Oda troops marching into the province of Iga.
So I guess it's the second one.
Bringing split screen into the trailer was part of our attempt at formulating an homage towards a lot of Japanese media and culture. And so we try to incorporate some of that style into the game as well. It's reflected in a lot of our cutscenes and cinematics. And we thought it'd be really cool to bring that on as early as possible. And so we pushed for it in the reveal trailer as well. It allows us to kind of show off both protagonists at various points in their lives, and how maybe that relationship can change over time.
When we have Yasuke that turns around and says,
You are still a frog in a well, who knows nothing of the sea.
it is a proverb from Japan. For us, sort of resonates with both their journey. As they open their eyes or know a little bit more, things are not necessarily as they seem.
Of course, because it has to be, you know? It
It
has to be, because it's an Assassin's Creed game. Oh, something is always going wrong.
That's bigger.
The ocean's filled with new ships.
So here we're in Sakai, a big port in Japan. The ships that we are seeing are Portuguese ships. They are a version of the black ships, or a lot of the merchant
Oh my
ships
God,
that were
Portuguese.
coming in
So
and
I'm
out
guessing the
of
main
Japan at the
villains may
time.
end up
A few
becoming
came to Sakai,
like
but mostly in Nagasaki. But for the
Japan
takeover,
and maybe
it's happening in
Portuguese.
Sakai.
Greed.
The person we're seeing on screen is Oda Nobunaga. So he is known for being one of the three great unifiers of Japan. A very polarizing character, depending on which side you were.
We're seeing Yasuke's first audience here with Oda Nobunaga, and one of the reasons why this meeting could even happen is due to Oda's deep relations with the Portuguese through trade, which resulted in him becoming quite a force to reckon with when it came to the use of Teppo. All this to say, Oda Nobunaga is an incredibly powerful figure at the time, very important to our story as well.
Is he gonna die? That's the question. Because Nobunaga has always been
There are a
used
lot of
in.
speculation about Yasuke's arrival in Japan. The most common one is that Yasuke came in a couple of years before this meeting, and he learned Japanese quite fast, and he was very fluent into the Japanese culture, and it impressed Oda. So his stature, of course, impressed Oda. He was seen as super big. His skin color was one thing as well, that the reports on the Chronicle of Oda say that was the first African man that Oda had ever seen. Oda asked him to stay with him, and this is what we know pretty much of the story of Yasuke. So there are a couple of elements that we will see also in the game that are historical reports of his presence, but then after that there's quite a bit of an interesting what if with him that will happen.
I'm still waiting to see the Assassons logo.
The initial volley, this is a concept that we had very early on, this really cool idea of the initial reveal of Yasuke emerging from the gun smoke. To us, that really ties him to Oda's battle style, and as probably one of the most important people to Oda in our game specifically. And what we're seeing here is a battle between the Oda clan and another rival clan, as a big part of the unification was taking down some of these rival clans for territory.
Yeah.
What we see is Yasuke cutting people down with a great deal of ease. These are all moves that are going to be in the game. We specifically made sure all the choreography shown in the trailer are all taken directly from gameplay itself.
So, okay. Does that mean that everything is
One of our
kind of like
big breakthroughs
in-game,
this game is
in-game in general?
definitely this element of dynamic time, seasons, and weather. And we were kind of racking our brains with how to depict this in a trailer. And so one of the ways we thought about establishing their relationship was to kind of break the rules of time a lot. We're seeing them out of place a lot. They're seeing each other, but that might not be literally the first time they meet or lock eyes. And what we're seeing here really is kind of a culmination of both of their journeys.
Even though Yasuke has been on a journey as a fighter for Oda Nobunaga, does he think that this is the right thing to do? Now he's confronted to the destruction of province of Iga, so sort of a tying two worlds together at this point.
In particular, the shot of them in the open field to us is really this moment out of time. It's them speaking to each other.
It's like
on a
the
level
Animus,
that
in
might
my
not
opinion.
literally have ever happened, but it's really the moment that really brings them together. And just like a quick little note here for those eagle-eyed viewers, you'll notice that the split screen is slightly different here, which was once again a deliberate decision we made. The other one has a bit more of a slant to it, maybe a bit more aggressive, especially if you're familiar with like anime or manga codes, comic book codes. But here, flattening it out a little bit establishes that maybe the relationship is different. I don't want to speak too much about that, but given the time period of our game, unification is a really big deal. And I think the concept of unification can mean very different things to different people. And it definitely resonates differently for our two main characters.
And we must look for it together.
So what we're seeing here is that Naoe and Yasuke do have allies in the world. Like every good shinobi, she has access to a network of spies and people that can help her and trade for information. And we're seeing here is somebody giving her information on the whereabouts of the person that she's looking for. In the game, you can switch between both characters as you please. They do have a life when they're not played, so that when you switch back characters, you can see them do something different.
Most of our black box level designs allow for both playstyles to work kind of perfectly, and you can choose the one that you prefer. If you want to go in and just be full of brawn, cut people down with Yasuke, you have that option.
I feel
If you
like
wanna
this
take
is
a
going to be
stealthier
their
option,
equivalent of like a
we'll see what
mini
that looks like in a
Souls-like.
second.
You know, like someone who's just going to completely batter
This is
everyone.
my favorite part, the wink.
A big thing we were pushing for in our trailer was to really humanize our protagonists. Real emotional stakes, make them feel like people you could actually see in real life, especially given that Yasuke is based off a real person. We wanted to be authentic, at least somewhat, to
So he's not
full,
the person, he's
breadth
based
of
off a real
emotions that he
person.
could portray.
And follow the blade.
I guess that's the same thing for Naoe.
We developed
So that
quite a bit
effectively,
of
I'm thinking Yasuke is going to end up
for
dying
Naoe
by the
and
end of
stuff.
this
And
game.
one of them is the grappling hook. And the grappling hook allows you to climb over walls walls that you cannot climb with Yasuke or without the hook, which opens different paths for Naoe. And there's quite a bit of hook points in the game, so within every layout that you're going to see, and sometimes to come in from a
This is going to be our equivalent
entry
of
point.
the
So it's
hay
an
bales,
integral
maybe.
part of their stealth arsenal, as she can navigate much faster into the open world.
And that's one of the big changes between Yasuke and Naoe. One of the key differences is her ability to take a much more vertical approach. And a lot of our locations are big castles, big tenshu's with these giant walls, and it offers her a whole new vantage point for a lot of these missions where Yasuke doesn't have necessarily the same opportunity.
Now we can fight and hold her own against a few enemies, but she's not a big brawler like Yasuke is to take on a horde of enemies, right? She is light armored and she's quick and she's agile.
And that's definitely one of the key elements, her sheer speed. She's very, very quick and extremely lethal. But as soon as she's seen, the danger really rises for her, and she's got to get out of there as fast as possible.
Oh, that's a good gimmick, honestly speaking. I just don't know about the song choice.
Joe?
Yeah.
Are some things breakable in our game, would you
shit
say?
is breakable in the game. Part of
Oh,
our
wow.
dynamic world and the dynamism that we created for Japan goes also in the low-level destruction. So the weapons that we put a lot of little technological breakthroughs for our weapons, where you can destroy a large amount of props in the game. You can see him plow through the Suji doors. You can, destroy a full market if you wanted with the Kenobo. Obviously, the goal is still not to break everybody's stuff, but Yasuke can do it as well as Naoe, depending on the weapons they're using.
That's right. Yasuke's not the only one that can break through those shoji doors. Now he can assassinate people through them.
Oh, that's good. I wish we saw that in the trailer, though.
This is a weapon that Yasuke can carry around in the game. It's called a Kenobo. It's a very heavy weapon that does a lot of damage. It's a little bit of a slower weapon compared to.
It's a big,
katana, for
giant,
example.
like, jock-off
But it
metal
is a
piece.
weapon that brings a lot of destruction as Yasuke wields it. And Yasuke is a strong man, so he is the perfect candidate to handle the Kenobo in the game.
I said, who do you serve?
I always, like, appreciate the shamisen.
We are the shadows.
That served the light.
The hidden blade has two functions, so it can come out as a regular hidden blade. Like
Ah, finally, the Assassin's Creed look.
now we
I
can
was looking for that.
shoot it, the second portion, flip it.
It's
so
on-
that she has
it's
a
on
dual
the
blade,
hidden blade.
using a smaller weapon called a tanto and her hidden blade at the same time. So that's a very fast, damaging situation for most people that are fighting her at that time.
And what Joe touched on is something that I know fans have been wanting for a long time, to bring back hidden blade combat, like being able to just fight with your hidden blade. And we brought that back with the Tonto style. It's very cool, very fast, once again, very lethal in Naoe's hands. When it came to the name of the game, that was something I remember Joe talking about, making sure we had some sort of base into the original lore. And this line was always something that really stuck out with you. We put it in the trailer as well as a kind of punctuation, shadows. They are working in the shadows to serve the light. And that's always been the callback we wanted to conjure with this. Paired with that is also our renewed emphasis on stealth in this game. There are a lot of new mechanics we've added. There are a lot of really interesting tools we've given Naoe. I think for fans of stealth, you're going to be extremely pleased with some of the mechanics we've added into the game.
Was
And
Mirage
on a
not
meta
stealth
level for
enough?
both characters, Naoe being a shinobi, but coming from a place that is not necessarily prominent or just at the forefront of the conflict, but a little bit more emerging back from the shadows. It fits with her. And Yasuke as well, coming from a background that's outside of Japan. They are lurking in the shadows, but they are doing so to protect the land. This
We're
is,
trying to figure
very
out who the
interesting.
Templars
Like I
are
said, that
in this
will
situation.
Flow towards something pretty positive for us in the game and very satisfying in my opinion.
Thank you so much for watching. Assassin's Creed Shadows is out November 15th, and we cannot wait to show you more.
Okay, so we're gonna see a lot of stuff with Assassin's Creed this year. So here's my first thing. Hang on, let me let's put this here for now. So here's my first thing. One, it's a yearly release. I don't know how we feel about yearly releases again. Might be a bit of a I might have a bit of a. I wouldn't say I have a bit of a problem, but I'm worried because usually that's what caused the burnout in the first place with the Assassin's Creed franchise. There was just too many happening too close together. I think once every 2 years is actually really good. Mirage came out last year, so I don't know how I feel about another one already coming out. I like knowing about the projects, but I just like them being better paced is all. Maybe once every 1.5 years. I think that sounds good because then you can have it one in the summertime and then the next one in the following winter. That might work. But that's just me. The second one, obviously, this is Japan. We all love Japan. There's been this huge uptick of Japanese style games. I wouldn't say Japanese style games. Let me try and rephrase that. Using Japan as a setting. Ever since Ghost of Tsushima. I mean, they've always been around, but Ghost of Tsushima was kind of the big catalyst, in my opinion. So there's that one. I liked Yasuo and Naoe as characters so far. They seem really, really cool. I like Yasuke especially. I think a lot of people will really resonate with Yasuke. I think Naoe is like your traditional Assassin's Creed protagonist or Japanese character with vengeance. But I don't know. What I want to know is who the villains are in this one. It was a bit more clearer from... No, Mirage was... The good thing about Mirage's story, if anyone has played it, is what ended up becoming the villain in the end, because it had everything to do with the outside stuff, and I don't know if people enjoyed that part. Whereas Valhalla was... They were playing through effectively what Norse mythology was at the time, and they went through the different wars, and the Templars... where people who kind of infiltrated all that. I want the Templars to be a bit more on the forefront on this, and my guess would be Naoe will end up killing Yasuke, or Yasuke will end up killing Naoe. It's going to be one of the two situations, because while they wanna emphasize the camaraderie thing, they may end up doing a Rogue One where everyone dies, which I guess makes sense, like in the story that they're presenting. But I am wondering how Yasuke doesn't survive this. How Yasuke will survive this. Sorry, because it's meant to be about Oda Nobunaga, and he's a very, like, I'm pretty sure he's one of his stories. There's always a game about Oda Nobunaga somewhere, whether it's like, it's one of the big Dynasty Warriors style games, as far as I remember. I think it's Dynasty Warriors, although they, I believe, covered, yeah, I think it was Dynasty Warriors that did that a lot more. And then there's always there was even a game that came out recently called Nobunaga's Redemption or something like that. Maybe I got confused, but I know his story gets retold quite often. So, how is the Templars going to be involved in this, and how is this going to affect the Asu? How is this going to affect everything to do with the Animus? How is this going to affect everything to do with like the Desmond storyline? Like, that's the thing a lot of people are more interested in. Like, the environment is great. I'm not against it. I just want to know more about. There's little details that I want to know about, and I'm wondering why that hasn't been. I guess because of it's a teaser, it's a great thing they haven't showed it. Good way of bringing people in, but I want to know more about what is happening with these extra characters. Also, the temptation to replace Yasuo with Shadow the Hedgehog is very real. That's my time right now. All right, cool.